Morning, everybody. I finished my cord of wood. Yay! Big applause for me. So for those of you who haven't been following the project, I cut a cord of wood over 3 months with just axes. So I did this the way that I did it for good reasons. I wanted to maximize the amount that I learned. I got some comments saying things like, oh, it'd be easier to use a saw. Well, yeah, I mean, of course it'd be easier to use a saw. The point wasn't for the project to be easy. The point was for me to learn more about using an axe, get better at it, and just get some insight too about like what it was like for people who only had axes to process their firewood and do that type of work. So by putting myself in a position where I needed to use a tool and interact with resources here on the land in order to fulfill my direct needs, so my work was in direct relation to my needs. That's just really valuable, and I know that from previous experience doing other stuff, and I just knew I would learn a lot. So by doing this consecutively, day after day after day and hour after hour, by doing that, I just really improved my technique a lot, just my skill level. Technique, strategy, aim, and especially efficiency, and all those other things go into efficiency. Like, it's hard to do something really efficiently, and I'm talking about amount of work done for energy expended, without being good at it. I would really like to see what the limitations are. I gained some insight on that. You read these accounts where people were cutting like a cord a day or a cord and a half or 2 cords, and so yeah, that sounds impossible. Like, how would someone even manage that? Well, I gained a little bit of insight on that. One thing is that they were probably cutting much longer wood, so at least 24-inch lengths. Like, no one in their right mind, in a paradigm where the axe is the main tool for firewood cutting, would ever design a stove or anything to burn 16-inch logs. I mean, that's complete insanity. Now with a chainsaw, it's different. I have a stove that burns like 12-inch lengths. So yeah, that's crazy if you were using an axe. They were cutting longer lengths, and a lot of them, they may have been cutting 4-foot lengths. That would be bucked up later into say 24-inch lengths for the fireplace, or they were cutting long lengths for making charcoal or for industry. So like, if you're feeding a giant furnace and you can throw in a 10-inch 4-foot log, then so yeah, great. Just like, why would you cut it any smaller? So that's one thing, is they're doing less actual cutting, and that's a big difference. So these are 16-inch lengths. I mean, that's a big difference just from cutting these versus cutting 24-inch lengths. It's an entire extra cut per 4-foot log, basically. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is just, practice and efficiency. Learning to be super efficient so that you're not wasting any energy. None of the energy is wasted. Then that makes like a gigantic, huge difference. Okay, here's another one. Quality of wood. Like, how good is your wood lot? So if you are cutting the kind of stuff I'm cutting, where there's just, this place was logged heavily 60 years ago, and everything's still just growing back. There's limbs, way down low. Like, almost every tree has limbs low down. And typically, like with the tan oaks, I had to cut a lot of those because they're infected with a disease, so I'm trying to just like salvage as many as I can. They will typically have like clusters of 1 to 3 inch knots, branches like every 18 inches or so. I mean, it's just really challenging to work around that stuff. So I was cutting a lot of wood that was pretty marginal that way. See footage of people back east and in Europe cutting these beautiful, tall, straight trunk trees with no limbs for way up there. That is not the kind of stuff I'm doing at all. And so just walk into this area and there's all these nice trees, and you don't have to do tons of limbing, and the stuff splits easy, and you're not working constantly trying to figure out how to work around knots. Like, I was often cutting right up to knots or cutting knots out, because it's just like where the knots happen to fall. For me, that would be the holy grail, is to say like, how much could I cut in a day? Like, if I could cut a cord of wood in a day into say 4-foot lengths and get them all stacked, that seems like a major accomplishment. That would just make me super happy to do that. If I was gonna pursue something in this realm, it wouldn't be like competition chopping, like how fast can I chop. For me, the challenge is more like the practical immersion, like being immersed in a practical setting and saying like what is possible, like if I needed to do this work, you know, in under field conditions. Looking at it that way, I can also see how having to use an axe all the time would really push people in the direction of making decisions based on convenience versus based on, like, say, forest health. Chainsaw gives me the versatility to go cut anything I want. Generally, my choices, you know, like there was some nice black oak, say, but that was already down, but it was partially dry, and it's just like so much harder to chop when it's dry that I was just like, well, I'll get that with a chainsaw later. There's one trunk that's maybe 15 feet long that I just left because there were so many knots in it. You know, my selection changed entirely. Basically is what I'm trying to say, is I had to look at trees not just for whether they needed to be cut, but like how easy they were going to be for me to cut. I didn't learn quite as much as I wanted to about axes. Like I was going to haft up a bunch of different axes and try them out and all kinds of stuff. But you know, you make plans and then you start like dropping things out of your plans rather than adding things. So I did learn a lot. I cut this whole stack just with this little forest axe, and I just wanted to see what its limitations really were. Yeah, I just wanted to do a lot of work with it and just get a feel for like what if, you know, what if I just took this out and what would that be like? I tried this 30-inch handle that I made and did like a whole bunch of work with that. I just wanted to see like if I would get used to that particular handle, or if it would continue to be kind of awkward, and it really did. I definitely got better at using it, but it still felt awkward, and so the next rendition of that handle is going to be shorter with a curve. Anyway, my point is really that I wanted to learn more about that and do more with it, but you know, I can only learn so much in this amount of time with this amount of wood. So if I do this more in the future, hopefully I'll diversify, get some other stuff hafted up, and make some different types of handles and start to really get a feel for what I do and don't like and do want and don't want. And I don't feel like you can do that in a shorter period of time not doing very much work, like just doing brief comparisons and stuff like that. I mean, it just takes time. So the sun's getting all up in my face here. I just want to tie this up. So I was just going to say I'm going to do this again next year, I hope, and I'll probably challenge some of you guys to do it too. People who are really interested in getting better. I mean, there's just no better way than to put yourself in a position where you have to perform under versatile field conditions and put yourself in direct, like your work in direct relation to your own needs and the resources around you. I mean, that's just, you're just going to learn a lot. I know axes are a big deal right now. There's like a lot of guys collecting axes, and let's be, you know, axe users and not just collectors, and you know, put those axes and ourselves to the test and see what happens. So yeah, I'm thinking like cordwood challenge, basically, you know, pick an amount, whether it's a quarter, half cord, 2 cords, and just say, you know, I'm going to do that this year. Hopefully someone will take me up on the challenge. It's a big deal. It's a big commitment. It's dangerous. You need to be aware of that. Probably do another video on this later, like fully calling you guys out to that challenge. In the meantime, if you're not very familiar, like the time to start that project is not when you're starting the project, it's way before you start the project. So, you know, we need tools that work, and we need like some level of skill already. You don't want to start completely cold and try to do this. Like, again, I can recommend Morris Kahansky's Bushcraft and the Axe book by Dudley Cook, and also Morris Kahansky's video on using axe use and safety that I'll also link down in the description there. I'm not sure what else. We'll see what else I can come up with later on. I haven't seen a lot of videos that I can recommend without any qualification, I guess is what I would say at this point. But I'd like to find some. Please, if anyone knows something that they would highly recommend that they think is really, really pretty top-notch information, please leave a comment, because I'm interested in finding more of that stuff and maybe eventually making like a video playlist or something like that. Anyway, yeah, I did it. Yes. Big achievement for me personally because of my personal life and problems I have, but I just wanted to do it before I died, and I did it now. Hopefully I'll keep doing it. We'll see how that goes. We don't get to predict what's going to happen in our lives or to us. So, yeah, less, but really I haven't. and just getting a lot more practice, my efficiency to improve a lot. So now he's just gonna yap forever. Anyway, what was I saying? Go away! Just go somewhere else. He may not be long for this world.